My name is Dr. Peter Froese. A little bit about me. I've been around education for over 3 decades. I began my education in public education in the province of British Columbia, Canada, and then continued my education in independent schools in the same province in British Columbia. And more recently, I have been spending the last 2 years in offshore schools here in China with Maple Leaf. I have a bit of education under my belt. I was fortunate enough to have a bachelor's, a master's, and a doctorate degree, which I obtained in educational leadership and policy from University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada. And as I pointed out, for the last 2 years, I've been the superintendent of schools for Maple Leaf. But before I begin, I need you to look at my background, the background to the image that you see of me. That happens to be the Maple Leaf campus in Dalian, China. It is a magnificent campus with a tremendous amount of facilities that I'll talk about later. And a little story before I begin. My first year that I started here, my wife is with me, and we happened to be driving by to head for the grocery store to pick up some groceries to get our apartment ready to go. And when we drove by the Dalian campus, she looked at it and said, "Is that a school?" Yes, in China, the schools are much larger than the schools that we will see in North America. They're more like a community, providing housing, dorms, educational facilities, recreational facilities. It is an entirely different structure than what you will see of schools in North America. Offshore school opportunities. I would argue that the most significant feature of an offshore school opportunity is the enriching and rewarding experience of living in another culture. I've spent time in Europe for 4 years in a previous offshore experience that I participated in. This is my second opportunity to live outside of Canada. And I have been so pleased by the experiences that you can gain from, in this case, the culture, the Chinese culture, the richness of the people. They are such a warm people that you can't help but be coming away with the experience that you've been enriched in some way. A great place to begin an offshore schools opportunity. The school communities also, because the Chinese culture or community is quite different than what you would find in Canada, the school communities become extended families for many of the teachers that are here. I don't speak Mandarin. I wish I did. And so those of us that do not speak Mandarin would tend to connect with people that are familiar with the English language. And that tends to be the foreign teachers that are part of the school community. And so there's lots of social events that take place, recreational opportunities, and that builds relationships with your colleagues that you otherwise wouldn't have a chance to meet. And I'll point out that the colleagues that you have in offshore schools tend to come from a much broader representation of countries around the world, besides, in this case, Canada, where I come from. It's also interesting that if you want to compare living standards or cost of living, so to speak, to Canada, for example, you will find that in Canada, it's expensive to live. In Western Canada, where I come from, Vancouver is a lovely city. I'm grateful to call it home, but it's expensive. When you come to China, you get wonderful opportunities. This is not a third world country. This is a well-developed country, and all of the amenities are available here, but the cost of living is very, very low. And that's an advantage. If you're choosing to come to China and you want to save some money at the same time, it's a great opportunity to do that. Many of the teachers who choose to come to offshore schools in Asia, they do so because of the tremendous travel opportunities. I'll talk later about some of the holiday breaks that we have within our school calendar, but travel is tremendous in offshore schools. The richness of this culture, which goes back 5,000 years, is amazing to visit some of these old cities, to be able to walk the Great Wall of China, something that I had on my bucket list years ago and was able to do that now several times during the 2 years that I've been here. It's a great, great opportunity. Okay, it should be advancing, but it chooses not to. Let's see if we can coax it here a little bit. There we go. One of the things that you will notice in offshore schools is that we have a large representation of new teachers, young teachers, those that have just finished their teacher training program. And they're here on their first teaching experience. And you'll also see a number of people who've been teaching for a long time, and they're taking a second go at teaching in an offshore school for another professional opportunity. A great opportunity for both groups of people, the new teachers that are just starting their career and those that have already been in education for a number of years and are looking for another opportunity. A friend of mine put it this way, who was coming to offshore school, said, there's still gas in the tank, so why not try another opportunity? Teachers here can strengthen their skills and practices before they ever transfer back to the state where they came from, or to public education, or wherever they call home. This is important because part of the thrill of being a teacher is that you're constantly growing in your education. You're learning, you're a lifelong learner. And offshore schools allows that for you to happen. And it's especially important because you're speaking with colleagues, you're having the opportunity to teach with colleagues who come from various parts of the world. Not just Canada, not just the United States, but they're here from the UK as well. They're here from Australia. They're here from various countries within Africa, from Jamaica, from South Africa, and wonderful people that we have a chance to connect with. Teachers benefit from the type of students that they are able to teach. One of the major differences that you'll see in offshore schools is that the students that we are engaged with, they tend to not bring the same type of challenges that some of our kids bring to us from schools in Canada. Our students come there focused. They tend to collaborate and cooperate well with the teacher. And so management issues become, or classroom management issues become less onerous than many of our schools that we encounter in Canada. You will notice in offshore schools, students are motivated. Their families are behind them. Education is incredibly important for families in China, as it is in other schools as well, or in other parts of the world. But in China particularly, the families do indeed want their children to succeed. They want them to go to post-secondary schools, and they want their kids to do well in their educational program.